The human ship entered Veltharan space without drama. Its engines were quiet, its hull clean, and its transponder broadcast nothing but peaceful intent. For the Veltharans, that alone was unusual. Most species arrived with shields raised or weapons armed, as if fear itself were a form of language. Humans did not. They came with rules, paperwork, and people trained to stay calm even when surrounded by claws and teeth. Ethan Cross stood inside the diplomatic chamber, hands folded behind his back, posture straight but relaxed. He wore the standard human envoy uniform, plain gray with a small Earth emblem at the shoulder. No medals, no rank markings meant to impress. Ethan was not important enough for that. He was chosen because he was ordinary, reliable, and hard to provoke. That was what the briefing said. The chamber was vast, built for beings larger than humans. The floor shimmered like dark glass, and tall pillars curved upward like living stone. Alien nobles filled the room, their forms tall and elegant, skin glowing faintly with shades of blue and silver. Their eyes followed Ethan closely. Some showed curiosity. Others showed open doubt. At the far end of the hall sat the alien queen. Queen Sarilith of Velthara reclined on a living throne grown from crystal and biometal. Her posture was relaxed, almost casual, but the power in the room bent toward her. She was taller than most of her kind, her crown formed from her own hardened crest, her eyes sharp and amused. She had ruled for over a century, and nothing in this galaxy surprised her easily. Ethan felt the weight of her attention, but he did not let it show. The lead Veltharan speaker finished the formal introductions in a musical language that flowed like water. A translation echoed softly in Ethan's earpiece. When it was his turn, he stepped forward, exactly 3 paces, just as protocol demanded. He bowed his head slightly, a human gesture of respect, then placed his right hand over his chest. "On behalf of humanity," Ethan said clearly, "I thank you for granting us audience. We come in peace and with respect." The words were simple, rehearsed, safe. The room went silent, not the polite silence of listening, not the quiet of thought. This was different. Ethan felt it immediately. A sharp, heavy stillness pressed down on the chamber. The soft hum of energy fields faded. Even the nobles stopped shifting their weight. Dozens of alien eyes widened. Some flickered with shock, others with disbelief. Ethan's stomach tightened. Did I say something wrong? He kept his posture steady. Years of training told him not to move unless instructed. Still, he could feel his pulse quicken. Then the queen laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was rich, loud, and filled with genuine amusement. It echoed through the chamber, bouncing off the pillars like rolling thunder. Several nobles looked at her in alarm. Others stared at Ethan as if he had suddenly grown another head. Queen Sarilith leaned forward, resting her chin on one elegant hand. Her eyes shone brightly. "You know that means marriage, right?" she said, still laughing. The translator repeated the words in Ethan's ear. Marriage. For half a second, Ethan thought the system had malfunctioned. "I'm sorry," he said carefully. The queen laughed again, louder this time. Some nobles hissed softly. Others whispered among themselves. A few looked outright horrified. "Oh, this is delightful," the queen said. "Truly delightful." Ethan felt sweat form at the back of his neck. He forced himself to remain calm. Panic helped no one. "Your Majesty," he said, choosing each word with care, "if I have committed a misunderstanding, I assure you it was unintentional." That seemed to amuse her even more. She raised one long finger and the room instantly fell silent again. "A misunderstanding," she repeated slowly. "Yes, that is one word for it." She stood from her throne, unfolding to her full height. When she approached, the nobles stepped aside without hesitation. Her steps were slow, deliberate. Power moved with her. She stopped a few paces in front of Ethan, looking down at him with clear interest. "You placed your hand over your heart after bowing," she said. "You spoke words of gratitude while doing so." "Yes," Ethan said. "That is a common human gesture of respect." Among my people, the queen replied, that gesture is made only once in a lifetime. The chamber felt colder. Ethan swallowed. Only once. Yes, she said lightly, when one formally accepts the role of royal consort. The words hit him like a physical blow. That was not my intention, Ethan said quickly. I had no knowledge of this meaning. The nobles erupted in quiet chaos. Some protested loudly. Others argued in sharp tones. A few glared at Ethan with open hostility. The queen raised her hand again and silence returned. I believe him, she said. Humans are known for many things. Lying poorly is one of them. That earned a few sharp looks, but no one argued. She circled Ethan slowly, studying him as if he were a rare artifact. Ethan stayed still, though every instinct screamed at him to step back. So, the queen said, you did not mean to claim me. No, your majesty, Ethan said. I would never presume. And yet, she interrupted gently, you did. She stopped in front of him again, eyes level with his. Veltheran law does not care for intention, she said, only action. Ethan took a slow breath. Then I accept responsibility for my mistake, whatever form that must take. That caused a ripple through the court. Several nobles stared at him in surprise. One even looked impressed. The queen's smile softened just a little. That, she said, is a very human response. She turned back toward her throne. This audience is concluded for now, she announced. The human envoy will be escorted to guest quarters. No harm will come to him. A noble hesitated. Your Majesty, I said no harm, the queen repeated, her voice calm but absolute. No one argued again. Ethan was guided from the chamber by silent guards. His mind raced. Marriage. Royal law, galaxy-wide consequences. None of this had been in the briefing. As the doors closed behind him, Queen Sarilith watched thoughtfully. This will be interesting, she murmured. Far away, aboard the human ship, diplomats waited for Ethan's return. He did not come back. Ethan woke slowly, his senses adjusting to soft blue light and unfamiliar air. The room was large, smooth, and warm, with walls that seemed grown rather than built. Patterns moved gently across the surface, like slow breathing. He lay on a wide resting platform that adjusted to his body automatically. He sat up at once. Memory returned in a rush. The chamber, the queen, the laughter, that single word, marriage. Ethan rubbed his face and let out a long breath. He was not restrained. No guard stood inside the room. Still, the air felt heavy as if the planet itself were watching him. A soft sound came from the doorway. A Veltheran attendant entered, tall and slender, skin pale silver. Their hands were empty, posture respectful. You are awake, the attendant said through the translator. That is good. Good for who? Ethan asked quietly. The attendant tilted their head. For everyone. They gestured toward a low table that had appeared beside the resting platform. On it rested unfamiliar food arranged carefully. You are required to eat, the attendant said. The queen wishes you in good health. That's comforting, Ethan replied. The attendant studied him for a moment. You are afraid. Ethan did not deny it. I'm confused. And worried. That is natural, the attendant said. You have triggered a binding rite. Ethan looked up sharply. Binding, as in, cannot be undone. The attendant paused. There are ways, but they are not simple and not without cost. Ethan's chest tightened. Cost to who? Usually, the attendant said softly, to entire worlds. That answer stayed with him long after the attendant left. Later, Ethan was escorted through long corridors filled with quiet movement. Veltharans watched him openly now, some with curiosity, some with disapproval, some with something like calculation. He was brought into a smaller chamber, circular and open, with a view of the sky above Velthara. Two figures waited inside. One was Queen Sarilith. The other was not Veltharan. The second figure was human. Ambassador Lena Torres rose quickly when she saw Ethan. Relief flashed across her face, followed by tension. Ethan, she said, are you all right? I think so, he replied. Physically. Queen Sarilith remained seated, observing them both. "I allowed your ambassador to join us," the queen said, "because this matter is not small." Lena turned to the queen, her expression careful. "Your Majesty, with respect, my colleague did not knowingly perform any binding act." "I am aware," the queen replied. "Intent has been discussed." Ethan stepped forward slightly. "Then there must be a way to reverse it." The queen's eyes gleamed. "There is a way to challenge it." Lena stiffened. "Challenge? Yes," the queen said. "By law, a claimed bond may be rejected if the claimant proves themselves unworthy." Ethan frowned. "I'm the one who claimed you." "Indeed," the queen said calmly, "which means you must prove you are unworthy." The silence that followed was sharp. Lena spoke first. "Your Majesty, that seems unfair." The queen smiled faintly. "Our laws were not built for fairness. They were built for survival." Ethan absorbed that quietly. "What does this challenge involve?" The queen stood, her presence filling the room. "Traditionally, it involves trials of mind, loyalty, and resolve." "And if I fail?" Ethan asked. "Then the bond dissolves," she said, "and you leave Velthara alive." "And if I succeed?" Lena asked before Ethan could. The queen's gaze returned to Ethan. "Then the bond stands." Fully, Lena turned toward him, alarm in her eyes. "Ethan, this isn't something you should take lightly." "I know," Ethan said. He looked at the queen. "Why give me the option at all?" The queen considered him. "Because forcing a consort breeds rebellion. I prefer clarity." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then I accept the challenge." Lena stared at him. "Ethan, if I don't," he said quietly, "humanity still faces the consequences. At least this way I take responsibility." The queen watched him with new interest. "Very well," she said. "The first trial begins now." The room shifted. The walls dissolved into light, replaced by a vast chamber filled with floating symbols and moving shapes. Ethan felt a faint pressure at his temples. "This is a cognitive field," the queen said. "It reflects truth." Ethan's breath steadied. "What do I do?" "Answer," she replied, honestly. A voice filled the chamber, neither male nor female. "Why did you come to Velthara?" "To keep peace," Ethan said. "To avoid war." "Why were you chosen?" "Because I follow rules, because I don't seek power." "Do you fear the queen?" Ethan hesitated. "Yes." "Do you desire her power?" "No." "Do you desire her?" The question caught him off guard. He looked at the queen. She did not look away. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I barely know her." The symbols glowed softly. Truth accepted. The pressure eased. The queen nodded once. "You did not lie. That is rare." The field dissolved. The second trial came without warning. Ethan was escorted to the outer gardens of the palace, where enormous Veltharan nobles waited. One stepped forward, larger than the rest, scars visible across his crest. "You are weak," the noble said bluntly. "Short-lived, soft." "Probably," Ethan replied. Murmurs rippled through the group. "You claim our queen," the noble continued. "Why should we accept this?" Ethan thought carefully before answering. "I don't claim superiority," he said. "I don't claim strength. I only claim responsibility." The noble sneered. "Words." "Yes," Ethan said, "but humans build empires with words first." The noble studied him, then stepped aside. The final trial came at night. Ethan was placed alone in a chamber with a single choice displayed before him. A device that could send a message to Earth, warning humanity of Veltharan laws and potential risks. Activating it would break protocol and insult the queen publicly. He understood immediately: protect his people or protect the bond. He stared at the device for a long time, then he stepped back and did not touch it. At dawn, Queen Sarilith arrived. "You chose silence," she said. "I chose trust," Ethan replied. "You gave me your word." "I won't break it." The queen studied him, expression unreadable. "The trials are complete," she said. "And?" Ethan asked. She smiled slowly. "You are not unworthy," she said. "That may be the problem." Far above the palace, Veltharan observers transmitted reports. Other empires were already listening. News traveled faster than ships. By the time Ethan Cross finished the final trial, The story had already left Veltharen's space. Whispers moved through trade routes, data relays, and silent listening stations. A human had triggered an ancient royal bond. A human had faced Veltharen trials and not broken. A human now stood closer to the alien queen than any outsider in recorded history. And not everyone was amused. Ethan felt the change before anyone explained it to him. The palace guards doubled. The air inside the halls grew sharper, more alert. Conversations stopped when he passed. Some Veltharens bowed slightly now, a sign of respect that made Ethan deeply uncomfortable. He was escorted to a new set of quarters, closer to the Queen's wing. The rooms were still called guest chambers, but Ethan understood the truth. He was no longer simply a visitor. Queen Saralith summoned him that same day. This time the chamber was smaller and private. No nobles, no witnesses. Only the Queen and Ethan standing across from each other. "You have caused disruption," the Queen said calmly. "I'm sorry," Ethan replied at once. She raised an eyebrow. That was not an accusation. She walked toward a tall window that looked out over the capital city. Towers of living crystal rose from the ground, glowing softly under the sky. "You passed trials that have ended bloodlines," she continued. "You did so without aggression, deception, or ambition." "I just answered honestly," Ethan said. "Yes," she said. "That is what unsettles my people." She turned to face him. "Veltharens understand power, we understand strength, we understand fear, but your kind confuses us." Ethan thought of Earth, of crowded cities and quiet farms, of people arguing, failing, trying again. "We survive by adapting," he said, "not by ruling." The Queen studied him closely. "That belief has kept your species alive among predators." Before Ethan could respond, a sharp tone cut through the chamber, a security alert. The Queen's posture changed instantly. Calm vanished, replaced by focus. "Stay here," she ordered. Ethan shook his head. "If there's danger, this is not your role," she said sharply. A distant impact shook the palace. Ethan felt it in his bones. The Queen swore in her native tongue and turned toward the exit. Another impact followed, closer this time. Ethan did not think, he moved. As the doors opened, a blast of energy ripped through the corridor. Veltharen guards fell back, shields flaring. Smoke and debris filled the air. An assassin emerged from the haze, not Veltharen. Tall, armored, and sharp-edged, the attacker moved with practiced speed. A weapon charged with unstable energy pointed straight at the Queen. Time slowed. Ethan stepped forward. The blast hit him squarely. Pain exploded through his body as the energy slammed into his chest and threw him backward. His vision blurred. His ears rang. He hit the floor hard, breath torn from his lungs. The Queen shouted his name. Guards surged forward. Weapons fired. The assassin fell under concentrated force, armor melting under the assault. Silence followed. Ethan tried to breathe. Each inhale burned. His hands shook. He tasted metal. The Queen was suddenly there, kneeling beside him. "Human," she said urgently. "Stay with me." "I'm fine," Ethan lied. He was not fine. Veltharen medics arrived quickly, lifting him onto a hovering platform. Energy fields stabilized his body, but their expressions were tense. "He absorbed the blast meant for you," one said. "His physiology is fragile." The Queen's jaw tightened. "Do everything." Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness as he was moved through the palace. Voices echoed, shapes blurred. When he woke again, the room was dim and quiet. Machines hummed softly around him. His chest was wrapped in a flexible support mesh that glowed faintly. Queen Saralith sat beside him. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You should not have done that," she said finally. Ethan managed a weak smile. "I was closer." "That is not an answer," she said. "It's the truth," he replied. She studied his face. "You could have died." "Yes," he said, "but you didn't." The Queen looked away. No one spoke for a long time. When she finally turned back, her expression had changed. The amusement was gone. The ruler remained, but something else stood beside her now. You acted without hesitation, she said quietly, without obligation. I had an obligation, Ethan replied. You trusted me, she nodded slowly. Many claim loyalty, few prove it when death is immediate, she stood. Rest, you will need strength. For what? Ethan asked. For what comes next, she said. Outside the medical chamber, the palace was already in motion. Interrogations began, signals were traced, the assassin's origin was identified, a rival empire. One that had long feared Veltharan dominance. They had hoped to remove the queen and frame humanity. Instead, they had created something worse. A symbol. Within days, news spread across the galaxy. A human had shielded the alien queen with his own body. Human reactions were mixed. Shock, fear, pride, anger. Earth's leaders demanded answers. Some wanted Ethan recalled immediately. Others warned that doing so would be seen as an insult. Ethan recovered slowly. His injuries healed faster than expected thanks to Veltharan medicine. When he walked the halls again, the looks had changed. No longer curiosity, respect, and fear. The queen called a formal assembly. This time, Ethan stood beside her. Nobles filled the chamber, their expressions serious. Representatives from allied systems watched remotely. The attempt on my life has failed, the queen announced. Those responsible have been identified, murmurs spread. The human did not cause this instability, she continued. He revealed it. She placed a hand lightly on Ethan's shoulder. He is under my protection. Silence followed, then one noble stepped forward. Your Majesty, the noble said, voice tight. By tradition, a consort must command strength. Ethan felt every eye turn toward him. The queen answered before he could speak. He has, she said simply. No one argued. Far from Velthara, fleets shifted positions. Borders hardened. Messages grew sharper. The galaxy had noticed something dangerous. Humans did not seek crowns, but when tested, they stood their ground. And now one human stood at the heart of an empire. The galaxy did not wait. Within weeks of the failed assassination, pressure closed in around Velthara like a tightening ring. Trade routes shifted. Neutral systems delayed responses. Old rivals grew bold. Messages arrived daily, each wrapped in polite language and hidden threats. Ethan felt it in every room he entered. He was no longer treated as a mistake or an accident. He was treated as a factor. That unsettled him more than fear ever had. He stood beside Queen Saralith in the council chamber as representatives from allied systems appeared as shimmering projections. Some were familiar, others were strangers, watching him with careful eyes. The situation is unstable, one envoy said. Your Majesty's decision places the balance at risk. The balance was already broken, the Queen replied calmly. I simply revealed the crack. Another envoy leaned forward. With respect, the presence of a human consort challenges centuries of order. Ethan shifted slightly but said nothing. The Queen's gaze hardened. Order that depends on stagnation is decay. The projection flickered but did not argue further. When the meeting ended, the chamber emptied quickly. Conversations continued in hushed tones as nobles departed. Ethan exhaled slowly. You don't have to stand through all of that, he said to the Queen. I can leave the room during councils. She looked at him sideways. You could. But you don't want me to, he guessed. No, she said. I want them to see you, he frowned. As what? As proof, she said simply. Proof of what she did not say. Later that cycle, Ethan received a message from Earth. Ambassador Tor stood on the screen, her expression serious. Ethan, she said, this is getting dangerous. I know, he replied. Some factions are calling you a liability, she continued. Others think you're leverage. Earth is divided, Ethan nodded. That sounds right. They want you to come home, she said quietly, at least temporarily. Ethan looked away. Through the window, Velthara's capital glowed beneath the night sky. If I leave now, he said, what message does that send? Lena did not answer immediately. That humans avoid becoming targets. Ethan met her gaze again. Or that we break our word when it becomes inconvenient. She closed her eyes briefly. You've changed. No, Ethan said. I've been tested. The call ended without a decision. The next day, Veltheran intelligence confirmed what everyone feared. The rival empire was mobilizing. Not openly, not yet, but fleets shifted closer to contested space. Defensive arrays powered up. Old treaties were questioned. War had not been declared, but it was being prepared. Queen Sarilith summoned Ethan to the War Council. This time the room was filled with commanders, strategists, and analysts. Holographic star maps floated in the air, lines and symbols shifting constantly. You should not be here, one commander said bluntly when Ethan entered. I know, Ethan replied. The Queen raised a hand. He stays. The commander did not look pleased, but he obeyed. The discussion moved quickly, filled with technical terms and strategic projections. Ethan listened, absorbing what he could. Veltharans favored decisive strikes, overwhelming force, and rapid dominance. It was effective, but it left little room for error. When the Queen finally turned to him, the room quieted. You have been silent, she said. Do you have insight? Ethan hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay quiet, but silence had consequences too. In human history, he said slowly, wars rarely start the way people expect. They start with misunderstandings, fear, and pride. A few commanders scoffed. Our enemies understand strength, one said, not hesitation. I'm not suggesting hesitation, Ethan replied. I'm suggesting preparation for the wrong move. He pointed to the star map. If they expect you to strike hard, they'll prepare for it, but they won't expect restraint paired with readiness. The room fell quiet. The Queen watched him closely. Explain. Humans deter conflict by making the cost clear, Ethan said. Not by striking first, but by proving we can endure longer than anyone else. A strategist tilted their head. Endurance is not dominance. No, Ethan agreed, but it wins wars without fighting them. The Queen turned back to the map. Adjust the deployments, she ordered. Defensive formations, layered responses, no first strike. Some commanders looked uneasy, but none challenged her openly. Later, as the council dispersed, the Queen walked beside Ethan. You speak carefully, she said. I'm afraid of being wrong, he admitted. She nodded. That fear keeps you alive. The pressure continued to build. Skirmishes broke out along distant borders. Nothing official, nothing undeniable. Ships vanished. Outposts went dark. Through it all, Ethan remained visible. He attended ceremonies. He stood beside the Queen during broadcasts. He spoke little, but when he did, he chose his words with care. The galaxy noticed. So did humanity. Earth's response surprised many. Instead of pulling back, human fleets repositioned, not toward Velthara but near shared trade routes. Medical ships followed. Logistics hubs activated. Aid convoys prepared. No weapons aimed. No threats issued, just presence. Veltharan observers were baffled. They do not posture, one noble said. They prepare, another replied. The rival empire sent a formal message. It questioned the legitimacy of the bond. It questioned the Queen's judgment. It questioned humanity's worth. Queen Sarilith read it once, then handed it to Ethan. What do you think? She asked. Ethan read it carefully. They want you to react. And if I do not, she asked. They will escalate, he said, slowly, publicly. She studied him. And what would humans do? Ethan handed the message back. We would invite them to talk. The Queen laughed softly, not in amusement, in understanding. Very well, she said. We invite them. The summit was announced 3 days later. Neutral ground, open observers, full transparency. The rival empire accepted. Some called it courage, others called it weakness. On the day of the summit, Ethan stood alone for a moment, staring at his reflection. He was still just a man, no armor, no crown, no authority beyond what others chose to give him. Queen Sarilith joined him. You could still leave, she said. I know, he replied. You would be safe, she said. Maybe, he said, but you wouldn't be. She looked at him, eyes searching. "You do not owe me your life," she said. "I know," Ethan replied. "I choose it." The summit chamber filled with delegates from across the galaxy. Tension hung thick in the air. The rival envoy spoke first, sharp and confident. "This bond is an error," they declared. "Correct it or face consequences." The Queen rose slowly. "This bond is a fact," she said. "You may accept it or test it." Ethan stepped forward beside her. The room fell silent. "This is a human," the envoy said coldly. "One life, one weakness." Ethan met their gaze. "No," he said simply. "I'm a bridge." The galaxy leaned closer, and for the first time the rival empire hesitated. The summit ended without a single shot fired. Delegates left the chamber with expressions carefully composed, but everyone knew the balance had shifted. Humans had shown restraint, readiness, and courage at the same time. Velthara had shown trust. The rival empire had shown hesitation. Queen Seralith and Ethan walked together through the palace gardens after the summit. The sky glowed with twin moons, their soft light reflecting off crystal towers below. The air smelled faintly of alien flowers, each one moving subtly as if it had a heartbeat. "You surprised them," the Queen said quietly. "I didn't do anything special," Ethan replied, though he felt the weight of every gaze he had endured that day. "I just stayed calm." The Queen smiled faintly, a small curve that didn't reach her eyes at first. "Humans calm under pressure. That alone unsettles other species. They expect fear. They do not expect resolve." Ethan looked at her. "And now," she said, "they understand that strength can take many forms. Not only claws or shields or weapons, but patience, loyalty, and sacrifice. You demonstrated all three." He felt a flush rise to his face. "I didn't do it to prove anything. I just did what I thought was right." The Queen's smile deepened. "Exactly. That is why this bond cannot be ignored. You did not seek power. You did not seek control. You acted for what you believed was honorable." Ethan hesitated, unsure if he could meet her gaze. "Then this bond, it's real." "Yes," she said firmly. "Not because of ceremony alone or tradition or politics, but because you earned it in a way no one expected, including me." Ethan took a deep breath, the tension of the past weeks finally pressing down fully. "I never thought a gesture could have consequences like this." You thought humans cannot be trusted," the Queen interrupted gently. "You thought laws and customs you did not understand could endanger you and those you care for." He shook his head. "No, I thought I could just survive." "You survived," she said. "But survival alone is not enough. You changed everything. You changed how my people see humans. You changed how the galaxy sees us. And more than that," she paused, eyes searching his, "you changed the way I see you." Ethan blinked. The weight of her words sank in slowly. All his training, all his experience, had never prepared him for this. He had faced enemies, disasters, and assassins, but never admiration from a queen, never acknowledgement that his actions mattered on a galactic scale. The Queen stepped closer. Her presence was commanding yet calm, like a tide moving around him. "I laughed when I thought you did not understand the meaning of your gesture. I assumed it was folly. But now I see it was honesty, and honesty is rare in the galaxy." Ethan's throat felt dry. I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing," she said softly. "Actions speak louder than words, and you have spoken clearly." The palace felt alive around them. Servants, guards, and nobles moved with purpose, but none disturbed this moment. For once, the weight of power rested lightly. Days passed, and life adjusted to the new reality. Veltharan nobles, once skeptical, began to accept Ethan's presence. Some even sought his counsel, curious about how a human approached decisions of loyalty and strategy. Humans on Earth watched with amazement as their envoy became more than a diplomat. He was now a symbol. Conflicts along contested borders cooled, not because threats had disappeared, but because one man had shown restraint that others could not predict. Preparations that once signaled imminent war were now deterrents. The rival empire recalculated, wary of provoking an unpredictable human. One evening, the Queen summoned Ethan to the royal chamber. The council had ended early, leaving only the two of them. She gestured toward a balcony overlooking the city, where the twin moons cast silver light on the towers of living crystal. "You have learned much in these weeks," she said. Ethan nodded. "About Veltheran law, about politics, about consequences I never expected. And about yourself," she added. "You have learned that humans can hold the line in ways others cannot imagine. That patience and loyalty carry weight. That courage does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers." He smiled faintly. "I suppose I've learned that survival is more than staying alive. It's making choices that matter." She studied him for a long moment. "Yes, and sometimes those choices bind more than just yourself." He realized she was speaking about the bond, the unexpected union he had stumbled into with a single gesture, a union he had resisted, yet now felt an inevitability about. "Then, what happens now?" he asked. "Now," she said, "you are recognized not as an outsider, not as a curiosity, but as a partner in Velthara's future. The galaxy sees this, your people see this, and I see this." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle comfortably, like a warm cloak. Responsibility remained, yes, but so did trust and recognition. For the first time, he understood the depth of the laughter that had greeted him weeks before. It had not been mocking. It had been disbelief, curiosity, and amusement. Now it was acknowledgment tempered with respect. Weeks turned into months. Ethan's presence became natural in Veltheran courts. He learned their customs not to impress but to understand. He advised the Queen not from fear, not from ambition, but from insight. He became a bridge between worlds, human and Veltheran, diplomacy and loyalty, caution and courage. And the Queen, once amused by his innocence, found herself relying on him. Not only as a consort, not only as a symbol, but as a partner she could trust. Together they navigated crises, solved disputes, and quelled misunderstandings that might have led to war. One night, standing again on the balcony, the Queen spoke softly. "Do you ever regret coming here?" Ethan shook his head. "No, not for a moment. Even when it was frightening, even when I didn't understand what I was doing." She smiled, a smile of warmth and amusement combined. "Good, because I do not. You have changed more than you know." He looked out at the city, glittering under the moons. "Then I suppose we've both learned something unexpected." "Yes," she said, taking his hand. "That even small actions, gestures meant simply as respect, can change the course of worlds." Ethan felt the truth of it. A simple bow, a human hand over his heart, had become more than custom. It had become connection, choice, responsibility, and in that connection trust had grown. The Queen laughed softly, the same laughter that had once startled him. This time it was not disbelief or amusement, it was joy. A quiet, steady joy that filled the balcony, the palace, and even the human's heart. Ethan smiled back. "I think I understand now. That laugh, it was never just amusement, it was opportunity." "Yes," she said. "An opportunity, when chosen wisely, shapes destiny." The moons shone brightly over the city. And for the first time since his arrival, Ethan felt truly at home, not on Earth, not yet anywhere else, but here beside the alien Queen in a galaxy that had begun to see humans in a new light. The galaxy had shifted. Empires would never forget. And one human, chosen by chance and courage, had proven that strength comes in many forms. Not always in power, not always in dominance, but in loyalty, honesty, and the courage to act when it matters most. And so the human stood beside the alien Queen, no longer a guest, no longer a mistake, but a symbol, proof that even the smallest gesture could change worlds, and that sometimes laughter held the power to reshape destiny. The Queen laughed again, quietly, warmly, and Ethan realized he would never hear it the same way again. He had lived through chaos, trials, and danger. And now he understood. Some gestures, some choices, and some people, when true, could change not just one life but an entire galaxy. And that was exactly what had happened. The human and the queen stood side by side, looking out over Velthara. They were not rulers, not conquerors, not pawns. They were partners, and together they had reshaped the stars.